addressed, and I don't think it ever really got fully addressed. But the state of the individual in question. Because, like, for the example I just gave, like, yeah, theoretically you could think of a situation in which the blimp was beyond your control, so you don't have the ability to, like, send it to the ground. But I still think that the existence of that individual in such a state that it is capable of absent any situation beyond your control, not like an outside situation, not a simple by virtue of their state. I know you don't like that phrase. I don't know why you guys were getting on my case about that, because, that's a simple turn of phrase. But the state of the being does come into play in a certain situation. If you have
Can
a
I
blimp that's like that's damaged so that you can't control it, I still don't think that you're justified in just tossing them over the side. I think that
so
you would still have to find a way to fix the situation. But there's
so
no
just to be
fixing the status of being of that individual.
Yeah, so I do want to be clear. Really, we got to the separation between the two analogies because you had posited that your ability to control actually was a factor, and maybe there's other sufficient, maybe there's other necessary factors. But I just want to know whether this one's necessary or sufficient. Can I ask why is this a factor at all? Like, why is the ability to control the time difference a factor, and whether you can abort the fetus or not?
Well, no. It's not controlling the time. I actually, when we talked a little bit further, maybe I didn't express it in the chat, like in the Discord, or not in Discord, but in the TikTok live. But no, I think the reason that the time situation is literally out of your control and is context is strictly contextual to the point of being like anecdotal is the reason why citing time as a potential solution to this situation isn't a good one,
Wait,
because
no, I'm talking about your means of like eviction. So you posited that if you have the ability to like bring the blimp down, like if you're actually taking the control and bringing the blimp down, then you'd be obligated to do that instead of like just throwing the 4-year-old off. But then you also said that, and maybe there's all the necessary factors. I'm granting that, but you also made a distinction, and this was one of those conditions that was a distinction.
oh,
You said that
I
yeah.
see. I see. So I think that I didn't go far enough, and I apologize for that. I think that yes, your ability to affect the change, like affect the cessation of the stopping of the use of your resources, is distinct from in like pretty much every other situation compared to a pre-viable fetus, because it may be the case that in no other situation are you expected to just arbitrarily sit there and do nothing, which is what I think is the case with a pre-viable fetus. Because you have the means, you have the desire, and I think from a property standpoint, you have the justification to seek a cessation of that usage of your resources. But for some reason, according to your standard, they're not allowed to do so.
Yeah.
Now,
Sorry.
that said, that said, this is the point. If you find yourself in that situation of having a pre-viable fetus in your uterus, but you are physically blocked from doing so, that is another factor outside of your control. That no one is impacting your ability to do that consciously. No one is maliciously trying to prevent you from exercising your right to property. Like, I've used this example before. If you're going to the abortion clinic and you get stuck in traffic, nobody, at least for the sake of what we can assume to be the case, because if no one knows that you're pregnant, then no one can possibly consciously try to prevent you from um, to seek that outcome, unless there's that random hypothetical person that just like gets into traffic jams and tries to jam up traffic so that they prevent as many abortions from happening. But again, that's a really obtuse like stretching of the possibilities there. So what I would say is that a block on your situation doesn't change the justification that you have, such that even if you were that pregnant individual and we agreed on the justification, we agreed on the desire that was there, and we agreed that the means were out there, a simple block in reality is something that may or may not be unavoidable, but it doesn't change the ultimate circumstances that would ultimately lead you to be justified to seeking that abortion. It's just that it's going to be delayed by some factor outside of your control. Kind of like time, kind of like distance, kind of like just your place in reality when you make that decision. So that's where I would say with the blimp that maybe you lost control of, you you don't suddenly gain the justification to increase the amount of force that you use because that non-lethal option still exists. I would just say for that 4 months from conception to the point of viability, you are justified in using a lethal means to effect a cessation of the uses of your resources. And if that sounds like special pleading, I apologize, but I don't think it is. I think that it's just a very specific situation in which you are allowed to use that force because there literally is no other explainable means by which you could affect the same outcome given the state of being in that situation without an like I guess not an arbitrary, but without someone preventing you from doing so. And I think that the prevention of you doing so is not justified based on the facts of the circumstances.
Okay, yeah. So one thing, I'm not sure how the analogy, I'm not sure how like the example that you posited really points out or like even draws a distinction as like one that would matter. It seems like it's going to count in favor of the idea that time actually isn't a factor. Like whether you can control traffic or not, that wouldn't, you even said, you know, wouldn't change your justification. So I'm just
I
confused on
agree.
that one.
I agree. Time isn't a factor because it's so
Yeah, and but what I'm isolating, what I'm
it's so
isolating
anecdotal.
here, it's not time, but it's also your ability to control like the means of like eviction, your ability to control the state of affairs. And it seems like what you said just like counterfeit the idea that you having the ability to control changes absolutely nothing about your justification.
I could concede to that if we're agreeing on the phrasing here. Like I might be really careful with my language just because, I'm not saying you or even Mike are being malicious in the way that you're looking at this situation, but there are people who do. I think Bluntman would probably be a good example. I think he's been pretty malicious in his interactions, even with Liam, when he knows that Liam wipes the floor with him intellectually. So I'm a little bit careful with how I explain it. So I don't think your control necessarily is the factor so much as, what options do you have available, not just in terms of like, given the unique circumstances you find yourself in, like within your like existence in space time. Like let's make it as broad as possible with how we're describing this overarching situation. But also what means potentially change and or don't change if your position in space-time were to be different. This
Let's
is
say
why I
that
bring up the
let's say the positions in
uh,
space time that you had were actually such that you had the ability to control the 9 month process. And if you actually don't like flex your abs or something for 9 months, or like if you don't flex your abs like like 5 minutes every day, then the pregnancy process is not gonna do anything. You could just not flex your abs and the child is gonna remain there and it's eventually gonna die. Or you could flex your abs, like take whatever like a biological process that you have, like whatever like ability you had to like ensure the process of pregnancy goes. The process of pregnancy in this hypothetical is contingent on your commitments towards undergoing the procedure. Would you say that you'd be obligated to go through the procedure, or would you say that you can get an abortion?
wait, I'm really lost. Like are you so can you try to repeat that again? I like the flex maybe with a different analogy because the flexing of the abs is something that like I don't think realistic. Like if you could avoid that situation, I guess maybe more like lift your right arm. That might be a little bit easier to control than like the flexing of abs. But
Well, I think
I'm
flexing
just
your
trying to
abs is like
understand the analogy you're giving.
we're trying to make it realistic. I think flexing your abs is like more conducive towards pregnancy than like raising your arm. But I can change it. Let's say your commitment towards Um, let's say tapping your toe. Like you just tap your toe all the time. And the more you tap the toe, the more pregnancy proceeds. If you're not tapping your toe, then pregnancy doesn't proceed at all. Would you have an obligation to tap your toe for 9 months, or would you have this obligation Actually, would you have the entitlement to get an abortion?
Um, the en- the entitlement to get an abortion? I wouldn't. Are you saying that a necessary prerequisite of continuing a pregnancy is tapping your toe?
Yeah,
Well, then if you desire so, then keep tapping your toe.
that didn't answer the question.
I know, but like this is where I'm saying that like it's hard to really formulate a response to a situation like this. This is
Yes,
why I don't
I
I
think
don't
it's
want to
hard to formulate a
I
response
promise you
because the
I'm not
conditions.
trying to dodge the analogy. I'm just trying to understand it in a way that like
I can tell you the reason why it's hard to answer it is because the conditions that you laid out are they're just flat out nonsensical, and I have no idea why these even matter. Like I can get you to
well
like bite all these
well
bullets,
the
and if
condition
you do
the
bite the
conditions
bullets,
I laid
then I'm just gonna
wait
ask
the
why these
condi
conditions that you laid out even
Lucario
matter.
Lucario, the conditions I laid out don't apply to the pregnant person. They apply to the fetus.
So the ability to control. The ability to control the means of eviction with the state of affairs, the ability to control the state of affairs, you're applying that to the fetus.
No, what I'm saying is that the
No, you're applying it to the
ability
mother, right?
no, I'm saying that
No,
the
okay.
status
So if
of
you're not applying the ability to control, then I'm not sure why we're on this topic. We got here
I
from the condition. We got here from the condition that you have the ability to control. That's why the distinction between the two blimp analogies was so crucial. That's why the traffic example was crucial because you're isolating the fact that you don't have the ability to control. So we're applying the ability to control towards the mother, not the fetus.
well, yeah, because it's her property. She
You,
can
wait, you
she
said
can
wait, you said yes.
she can
You said
affect a
yes. You
cessation.
agree. You agree that we're applying to the mother. So your earlier contention doesn't matter.
No, but so okay, here's maybe something I have to say. I think you can affect a cessation of the pregnancy from zero to from 0 days to like what would otherwise be natural birth. I think even if the fetus is viable, even if you were to like forcibly remove it premature, I think that'd be okay, principally. I don't think it'd be okay normatively, because I think that we'd end up with a lot of individuals we have to give a lot more healthcare to, but that's my pragmatic side coming out. Like I still think you can affect an end of the pregnancy, but if they're viable and you have a non-lethal means of doing so, you have to employ that non-lethal means.
Okay, it seems like right now you're aborting the contention earlier. Isn't we were on the topic of like, okay, why does the ability to control the state of affairs even matter in your justification? So now it seems like we just completely shifted topics. I mean, I guess we can move on, but I'm just gonna need another distinction between the blimp analogy and pregnancy.
What I would say is that the blimp analogy is analogous to pregnancy only with respect to the post-viability argument.
And the 4-year-old is that's not viable in the blimp
The four
analogy, right?
no
Like
the
you're saying,
the no the 4-year-old is viable. You have a non-lethal means of getting it out of your blimp. It
sorry,
may
wait,
take longer, but again, it could theoretically take less time than it took to kill them and throw them out of the blimp. Like
yeah.
if
So
you're if you're
viability. Yeah, so viability in this situation would just be analogous towards like how close you are to the ground. Like, let's say if you were 10 feet
Mhm.
away from the ground,
No,
the
they're
4-year-old's
always
viable.
equally viable at every point, no matter how high off the ground or how low off the ground they are.
Well, in the analogy, like if we're trying to make it analogous towards pregnancy, it seems like
But
the conditions would apply that the 4-year-old is actually viable, like maybe 10 feet off the ground. But before that, it's not viable, and it's only viable like 10 feet off the ground. Not necessarily because naturally it would just go all the way to the ground, but it would be viable at like 10 feet off, and then you can like abort early and just like throw them off early, which
no,
would be naturally bad. But I,
no,
mean, I agree, it's naturally
no,
bad to like get an abortion like
no.
post viability without like the natural processes.
No, I'm saying that again, this is why it sounds like at face value like I'm making a special pleading argument, but I'm not because the state of affairs that exists with a pre-viable fetus is uniquely distinct from existence at every other point in time. The fact of the matter is that no matter how close to the ground or how far away from the ground you are, that individual, I guess theoretically, is not capable of existing outside of your blimp if we want to really use the terminology here.
Okay, so if
And
I if
so,
I
no
conditioned in the
matter how no
analogy.
now now no ma- now if you're 5 inches off the ground and you could return them to the ground, could literally return them to the origin point where someone might be able to say, "Yeah, I want to take control of that individual." It doesn't matter. You could reach that destination and they're still not viable. So what would be required to reach a non-lethal outcome would be to just arbitrarily say you have to hold on to that individual for an indefinite amount, not indefinite, like as in not with a clear end, but like an amount of time that is greater than zero, but less than infinity.
Okay, yeah, so
And this
usually
could,
in these dialogue processes, there's going to be two steps. One, you're going to have to accept the entailments of your view, and then one, you're going to have to justify the contention. So, first, the entailment. So, if I were to condition that this 4-year-old, just like it lacked the ontological properties of being able to survive outside of your blimp, you'd say that now magically you have the ability to throw it off, right?
yeah, sure, but that's not realistic. So
Wow.
I'm okay
Okay,
biting that bullet.
okay, good. That was the first one. I think that's insane. I don't think you actually
Yeah,
believe it.
look,
Now, the second
well,
part of the dialogue process is now I need you to justify why this condition even matters. Like, what is? I asked what is true of like one, but yeah, if true the other, both would like have this property X. Now
Lucario,
I need to
I
like
will
ask
I will
why.
have to I will have to
Why
push
does
back
the
a
truth
little bit
matter?
here because you
Why does
guys
the
were the
truth
ones who
maker?
said if you hmm?
Why is the truth maker? Why does the truth maker matter?
The what matter?
The truth maker. I asked, okay, basically I asked, look, what is true of the fetus that if true, the 4-year-old both would have the properties of like being able to be aborted, and I just applied the truth maker towards the 4-year-old, and you said yes, like pretty confidently. Now I'm just gonna ask, okay, why is this a truth maker?
Yeah, wait, I can give you a separate analogy that sounds a little bit more realistic to you. Like someone actually brought this up to me. I don't know if it was Mike or someone else, but someone said, "What if someone was trapped in concrete on your property?" And I said, "Okay, then cut them out of the concrete and get them off your property. That's a non-lethal option. That's a very reasonable option." And then I think they had to go so far as to say, "What if there's no way to remove them non-lethally? Like no ability to do so at all?"
Yeah, like they're like,
And they went that far. I will say that's not what you guys are doing, but they went that far to say at all. They didn't give a specific time, like you had to wait 5 months for whatever bullshit. Then I would say, well, then if anything, you'd be talking about a mercy killing, like because if they're going to basically exist there and they're not going to be able to move, they're not going to be able to live. Like theoretically, they could eat, but like
no,
I don't know, like.
you could get him a cell phone and some video games. It'd be fine. We're going to the metaverse anyway. He'd have to like wait 10 years though.
See, I like that you can maintain a little bit of levity in this conversation because some people take this shit way too seriously. I think Mike actually got really fucking mad, and I was like, dude, what's the buy-in here that you're like taking this that seriously?
I got mad
Like
in
I think
general.
I think I'm advocating for a position I believe in, and I think that I'm advocating for a position that people should hold.
I don't
But
think you
if
believe in
people
the.
don't
I don't
hold
think
that
you believe that
position,
you can throw a 4-year-old off of a blimp just because the 4-year-old
I
ontological.
don't.
It didn't have the
Wait,
ontological properties of like being able to
wait,
survive
I
outside of the blimp. I
wait,
don't think
Lucario,
that's
you're right. Lucario, you're right. I don't, but that's because in reality there is no such circumstance where that would be the case.
real. Wait, there is a case. It's called pregnancy. Good job.
Well, no, then I say that yeah, in pregnancy we have a situation where
Yeah.
yeah,
So
there
it's so
is no
pregnancy
way that
sounds
there
just as
is no way that you
wild.
can have
It
no
sounds just as
because in
wild as the
order
blimp
in order
analogy.
for to wait, Lucario, for you to even be entertaining this question, you have to agree with me that the fetus doesn't have the entitlement to the woman's resources.
No, I can make an argument for parental obligation, but I want to focus. I want to press this on this.
Wait,
And we can
not
move on to
not
parental
under
obligation.
this line of questioning. I know you
Yeah,
think you can make
on
that
this.
argument.
Yeah, I know. I think.
But that's what I want to engage with. Why do you think that that is a sufficient justification? How do you ground that?
No, on this line of questioning, you're just dodging right now. I asked
I'm
you,
I'm
okay,
not
why?
no no no
I gave you an exit,
I'm
and you
not
admitted
dodging.
you admitted that you genuinely don't believe you can throw 4-year-olds off of blimps. But now I'm gonna ask, okay,
No,
why do you think
I
it's okay to
I
get an
agree to
abortion?
your
But why do you not?
hypothetical.
Why do you not?
I
I
agreed to
I
your
know you,
hypothetical.
but it's also
But
I
again,
stepped back on
I
this.
also agree that
I stepped
I
back on
also
this
agree
after
that if
you made
someone
the claim.
if
I stepped back on this after you made the claim that you're advocating for a position that you genuinely believe in. And so I think I got you to concede that you actually don't genuinely believe in this position because the position in and of
but I
itself agrees that you can throw off the 4-year-old in the blimp, and you have admittedly don't agree with this.
under a hypothetical that violates reality.
Yeah, the hypothetical is pregnancy to the pro-lifer. Yeah, there's no principal distinction unless you want to give another
Wait,
one. Do you want to try to give another one?
wait. No, no, because you're giving some measure of weight that is distinct from a fetus to a 4-year-old.
Yeah,
And I don't think
because
I don't think you're
because
just
we view the 4-year-old.
no.
We no
You're
we
giving
view the
you're
fetus.
giving
We
more.
view
Wait, no, Lucario, you're the one giving more weight to the 4-year-old than the fetus in this situation.
yes
I'm
because
I'm saying they're all equal. I'm saying that if we had the same principles distinctions, then yes.
so
If
you
we have a situation where there's an expected amount of time where you'd have to keep that individual, even if you return them safely to the ground, but you couldn't remove them from your property because they can't exist outside of your blimp even for a second longer, even if you've gone through all of these other steps, then I say, well, all that we're going to be conceding to is that you have to let this other individual, who is of no more value than the mother, use property they're not entitled to,
okay,
even if
but
you go through all those steps.
sorry, but you're saying that the 4-year-old actually is able to use property that they're not entitled to. But
No,
if the 4-year-old had the ability, if the 4-year-old had
it,
like if the 4-year-old had an ontological nature that does not allow it to survive outside the blame, then you're saying, okay, now the mother's justified in claiming your
no, but
property. So
no,
this
but
contention doesn't even apply
the
because
difference is that
we've already established two distinct blimp analogies. One where the 4-year-old
no,
has the ontological ability to survive outside of the blimp, and one where it
because
doesn't, one
wait,
where it lacks this
Lucario,
one where it
Lucario,
lacks this
Lucario,
condition. And you
Lucario, you
explicitly
could,
said that you can throw one
Lucario,
off of the blimp, but not the other.
Lucario, you could take the 4-year-old under normal circumstances and the 4-week-old fetus under normal circumstances through these same steps. You get them to that point that you agree is the point where they could like no longer be in some measure of danger. And like you could return them to the point where someone might tell you, I want to take care of that individual. Now, in one instance with the 4-year-old, you can hand them off and the use of resources is done
But
and
no, you
you're in
can't.
keeping
Wait, no,
with
you
the
can't.
gentlest means necessary.
Not the 4-year-old I'm talking about. Maybe you're going back to like another 4-year-old, but that's not the one I'm talking about.
I said under normal circumstances,
Okay, under normal
but if we're
circumstances, it
talking,
has the same morphological properties as the
well,
fetus
okay,
does.
okay, if you have to violate normal understanding of reality in order to make your point, I don't care.
Yeah, normal
I mean,
understanding of reality. Sorry, do you not believe?
I'm
Do you
pro
not
2A,
believe?
but if
Sorry,
someone
sorry. Do you not agree that the
wait
fetus doesn't have the ontological
wait
ability to survive outside the womb?
wait Lucario,
That doesn't
I'm
violate
pro
reality.
2A, and I
We're talking
wait
about anything which does
Lucario,
correspond to
I'm pro
reality.
2A, but if someone posited to me that all guns shot nuclear bombs and I would always be hitting someone with a nuclear weapon that is innocent, then I would have to concede,
No,
yeah,
you
you
wouldn't.
can't
That's
use
because
guns under
you're
that
not well versed
framework.
enough in your theory. You could just say that having this weapon is like pointing at somebody. The reason you can't point your gun at somebody is because it's preemptive aggression. Even if you mean to or not, having a nuke that's going to go off is preemptive aggression because at any moment it would violate somebody's rights. That's why you can have nukes in like Antarctica. Maybe you can own them in Antarctica, but you can't bring them to the U.S. and like you can't bring them to suburban properties. You can't, in the same
But
sense that you
I
can't
but
also point your
okay,
shotgun. You can't
let me
point your
clarify
shotgun
the
at them.
point. I under my circumstances, I have a gun in my hand right now. Like I'm not saying figuratively. Literally I have a gun in my hand right now. Someone broke into my fucking apartment, I could go and find them and shoot them in the fucking head because I'm not going to hit anybody else. I'm a pretty good shot. They've broken into my house. I already have a reasonable justification to think that they're willing to engage in violence with me. And maybe I get the drop on them and say, hey, freeze, and I'm going to call the cops. That might change the circumstances. But if they brandish a gun, they brandish a knife, anything like that, or they step towards me after I tell them don't move, then I'm entitled to shoot them. But change the parameters to something that is outside of the bounds of reality. To if you shoot that gun, you you're gonna like set off a mini nuke that's gonna fucking kill your neighbors downstairs. Then I'd say, okay, well, then yeah, maybe I need to find a means of stopping that situation that doesn't end up nuking my neighbors.
Yeah, you don't have an entitlement to nuke your neighbors. That's true, but you also don't have
Yeah,
an entitlement. You don't have
I
an entitlement. Sorry, you don't have an entitlement to point that gun on
but
people at
but
Walmart.
my
That's what
but my
that would
wait,
be equivalent. That would be equivalent to having a
no, it
gun that
wouldn't.
shoots a nuke. It would be equivalent to pointing the gun at literally everybody in the suburban area.
No, it wouldn't. Well,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, okay. Under that framework of the nuke, yes, it would.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
okay. Are we actually in agreement that you disagree with Tyler's fucking insane position about yeah, you can own bombs and nukes and shit?
I don't care about Tyler's position.
I know. Well, Tyler, not necessarily Tyler, but like anyone who's made that fucking argument. So, but No, what I would say, the point I'm highlighting here, not to get off the main topic, is that yes, I would have to change my position to be principally consistent
Wait, I gave
if the
principles.
if
Sorry,
the bounds of the
I'm giving you.
hypothet
I'm
no, no, no,
giving you
you
principles.
gave
I'm giving you
principles,
principles.
but Lucario,
Your principles
I
are
know
false.
you understand where I'm going with this.
I'm
You're
sorry,
you,
your principles are false.
wait, Lucario, you're interjecting for me to criticize the fact that you've bent the rules of reality itself to feel like you can like make a point against me. Obviously, yes, I think that the principles have to apply to reality in some capacity,
Like, the
but I
principles
think I'm
do
doing a
apply
pretty
to
good job of
reality.
that.
I'm sorry, but this is a distinction.
You
The
have to
principles
adjust reality.
the
You
principles
have to
do apply.
adjust reality
I
to
didn't adjust any.
criticize my
Wait, I didn't
position.
adjust
And
anything.
frankly, I don't
I did
care.
not adjust anything in reality because
No,
this is the ontological status
because
of the fetus in the
because
womb. This is how we look at it,
because
and
by
it's just as wild.
because
And you
okay,
obviously not agreeing with
I
something
didn't want to
that
do
has no
this. I
principal
didn't want to do
distinction.
this, but
That
a
would command me
blimp
towards
is
the
an
belief that
open
you
air
can.
form of transportation. If they're able to exist just as a homogeneous being in open air, um, then they're capable of existing outside of my blimp. Like you have to bend reality to make a contention against my point.
Wait, which one of the four dimensions and laws of physics did the hypothetical violate?
Again, that is a non sequitur because that's not what I'm talking about.
Sorry, you made the
I was
claim
trying to
that
find
it
the best.
violates reality. I just want to know your account of reality.
Okay, in a normative sense, fine. Maybe we didn't like bend gravity or anything like that. I'm sure
Okay, I
if
guess
we
that.
thought about it really, we could make an argument how this happened, but we're not talking about the why. We're talking about the what. I don't think that you or I don't think you honestly have a contention here with the idea that yes, you'd have to fundamentally change the ontological nature of already born human beings for this to be a critique. And this is why I think that these reductios that you guys come up with are incredibly bad faith because like a reasonable reductio would still apply to reality in some concrete manner.
Sorry, what
But
is true?
you have to,
Yeah, sorry.
but again,
Yeah, I'm
it
just asking.
started with
Yeah,
it started
when
with
did it
the
not? When did it violate reality? I just want to know that.
can a
Maybe this is
can
gonna help me.
can
Giving me a set
can
of
a fetus
necessary and
can
sufficient conditions for
can
violating
can a
reality
4-year-old
is going to help.
can a
Is
4
going to help. Giving me these conditions is going to help me
can
understand how I can make
okay
future hypotheticals.
can can a 4-year-old breathe oxygen?
I did not answer my question.
I'm going through the process of helping to explain out the reasons why I think there is a meaningful distinction in the ontological nature of a 4-year-old versus a fetus.
I'm not making any ontological alterations with respect towards the fetus. I'm just applying them in this other hypothetical where you obviously don't want to bite the bullet.
And I already agreed, sure, but that's a reductio ad
Okay.
absurdum. That is a fallacy.
It's
Yeah. When
absurd and you don't hold to it. So imagine if
no
I
no
was
no,
advocating.
I held to it.
Yeah,
Wait, I
sorry,
held to it.
sorry,
I literally held to it.
I know it's crazy. So imagine if I held the
Okay,
position,
that's
if I
the
was advocating.
fallacy.
Sorry,
That's the fallacy,
just go.
bud. Come on. I know you're better than this, Lucario.
Yeah, I'm not I'm surprised. I'm not. Okay, so yeah, if I was advocating for a world in where this was actually a okay, and actually, you know what? This hypothetical is like, I actually don't know if you'll engage with this, but I'm gonna see if you will. So imagine if I right now me and you lived in a world where like people were throwing 4 year olds off of blimps all the time, and it's actually a heavily controversial topic. And I held the position that you can do this, and you were like, "Yo, Lucario, what if this was like an innocent baby inside of a mother's stomach?" I couldn't just say, oh my god, that is they're inside of a stomach for what 9 months? I can't conceive of that. Or I could just like engage with the hypothetical, but obviously I can just say no. Wait, you're objecting the laws of reality, and therefore my position is still true. That's how absurd it sounds to me because I didn't change any ontological properties of the fetus inside the womb. I'm just showing you another. I'm showing you an alternative
Wait.
reality where the
No,
principles still apply,
you're
and you
you're
obviously disagree.
you're changing the ontological nature of the 4-year-old and criticizing that. That's what you're doing. That's my critique here.
Yeah, because it
I
looks
I
exactly the same.
I already agree that if the fetus cannot be removed through any non-lethal means, then telling a woman she has to just basically live with the idea that her resources are going to be violated is subjugation. and
But
I'm not okay with that principally.
if you agree that I altered the ontological nature of the 4-year-old to fit that of a fetus inside the womb, then yeah, I agree. I don't see an issue, and it's absurd either way.
Dude, wait, okay, you still agree it's so then that's not your critique. Your critique of my ceding to that point that if the 4-year-old was ontologically indistinct on those grounds that I argue for abortion, then you're not your critique is not with my I guess my hypothetical insane point that I think it's okay to do that to 4-year-olds, because my reason why you can't do that to 4-year-olds is because the non-lethal option exists
Yeah.
principally.
Okay. Yeah. This. I don't, okay. This
But
was the
you
first
have
part of
to
the. Wait.
change you have to change.
Remember. This was the first part of the dialogue process. One, I have to see what it entails, see if you agree with it, and if you stay consistent, then I'm gonna have to ask you to justify it. We could just move on to justify, it, but you even admitted that you genuinely don't believe that you can do this towards 4-year-olds, and I think it is wild that just because
Wait,
in one blimp analogy,
Lucario.
in one blimp
Wait,
analogy,
Lucario,
where the 4-year-old does not.
I have to clarify.
Sorry. In
I have to
one.
clarify.
Okay. Go ahead.
I never said under normal circumstances it would be okay to do this to 4-year-olds. And I've reiterated that several times
I
now.
never claimed you
I said
did.
that if you're changing if you're changing the ontological nature of 4-year-olds to match the fetus in this particular instance, then sure, I'm happy to cede to that to be principally
Okay,
consistent.
that very sentence was horrifying. If
But
you give
again,
me a hypothetical that is representative of the theme of abortion,
you're the
then yes,
one
I
engaging
will say
in
you
the
can't do it.
fallacious. You're the one engaging in
If
the
you give me
fallacious. Wait,
if you give me a logical hypothetical that has no principal distinctions between the one you're trying to get at, then yes, I will say you can do it. Good job. That's the point.
wait. Okay, so then you disagree with the principle with regard to the fetus, not
Yes,
with regard to the
I
4-year-old.
agree because I disagree with the principle that there's like two blimp analogies that we went through in this dialogue process. I asked you, okay, so if the 4-year-old had the ability to survive outside of the blimp, and you wouldn't have the ability to throw it off, but if it did, if for some reason I'm just gonna like Thanos snap it to the point where like this 4-year-old has the ontological property of not being able to survive outside the blimp, then all of a sudden you're saying yes, now you can throw it off, and I think that's crazy. I don't think you actually believe that. And two, now I need you to justify it.
Why do you think that's crazy?
I need you to justify that. Why does that matter?
No, no. Why do you think that's crazy?
Wait, you don't think it's crazy? You know what? Never mind. I'll
Well,
concede it's not crazy. No, that's
okay,
totally rational.
why
That is totally rational.
okay,
You got it, caveman.
no.
No, that's totally
No,
rational. That made
the
sense.
reason why under normal circumstances you would not be able to throw them off is because yes, they
And
can in
under
fact
normal
exist.
circumstances, you can
And they
abort a
can
fetus.
be and they could be evicted from the blimp without killing them.
And under normal
So
circumstances, you can
this is
kill a child inside the
wait,
womb. Good
this
job.
is consistent with the gentlest means
I
necessary.
know it's
I
consistent.
haven't violated.
I know.
Okay.
Good job.
Is this just a preference argument? Are you just like emotionally
I,
uncomfortable with the conclusion?
I think normative propositions are expressing your preferences. Yes.
Wait, but I'm not making a normative claim.
You're
I
not making
still
a normative
normatively.
claim
Wait,
when you say that women have
wait.
the right to abort children inside of their womb. You're not making a normative claim.
They have the right. That doesn't mean that's my
That's not.
desired outcome.
Is that when you say that they have a right? Is that a normative claim?
They have a justification under
Is
my principles. That doesn't mean that's my desired
Is
outcome.
justification a normative claim?
No, I've established
It's not a normative
the
claim. So
logical
what did you
reason
mean by
why.
that? I just want to know what you mean by justification.
Okay? Are you saying everything is normative? Is that what we're doing?
I'm not saying my shoe is normative. No,
Because I disagree with that.
no, my shoe isn't normative. Good job,
I
Caveman.
I don't think property rights are normative.
You don't think property rights are normative? What do you mean by rights then?
The moral claims that people have, like based on their ownership of their own individual life, their liberty, and their property. I mean,
And
I don't
is this moral
I
claim
will admit
meta-ethical?
I struggle to be
Is
able to
this
put
moral
into
claim
words
meta-ethical or
the
is it normative?
concept of rights.
Sorry, is
No,
this
I'm
moral
saying
claim
I'm okay.
meta-ethical?
Lucario, real quick. I have been looking and I've been really failing to find someone who can succinctly put into words a definition of rights that I agree with. I'm just saying this as a person. I'm not saying this with respect to my argument. It's really hard for me to I can conceptualize it, but putting it verbally is really hard for me to do.
I don't think it
That's
exists.
so don't call me out because I don't give you a very succinct definition
No,
here.
that's fine.
I'm saying like if you have other people I can read, please suggest it. It just seems like we have a situation where, even if by negation,
The thing
no
that
one has the right to.
The thing that
Go
prevents
ahead.
me from calling you out from like not being able to define what right is just going to be like whether I came across like a plethora of people that actually can't define what right is. If they also can't define right, then yeah, I'd say yeah, sure. But you're saying that's not the case. You're saying that you just struggle to find a bunch of people that like have a definition of right that you agree with. So I think you not agreeing with like anybody's right. I think
or
that would
rather a
actually
way
give
of
me reason.
expressing
That
it
would
in a
actually give
succinct
me
way.
reason. That would actually give me reason to like criticize you for like not understanding what
Oh,
rights
I
are.
don't. Oh, I don't disagree with you. Please criticize me if you think that my definition of rights is insufficient. But
No,
like,
I actually don't
the
agree.
problem
I
is
don't
like
disagree with that.
I'm I'm struggling to hear your position where you like have this almost visceral, not logically based reaction to a situation where a 4-year-old would be thrown off of a blimp, which I share.
So yeah,
I
if you're
share it. I
asking,
really
if
do
you're
share it.
saying I have an
I'm
emotional
honest,
reaction when you throw 4-year-olds off of blimps, then yeah, I agree.
and you have a visceral reaction when 2-week-old fetuses are
Yeah,
employed.
yeah, good job. That's the same
Okay.
hypothetical.
Yeah, but okay, your visceral reaction isn't convincing to me.
Mine is consistent, and yours. I think your visceral reaction should be convincing to you, because if not, then I'm gonna need. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna need another
No,
principle
because
distinction.
so I have a visceral reaction to, I don't know, black men being shot by police. But if that black man is brandishing a gun at police and that police officer shoots them dead, I'm going to set my visceral reaction aside and say that that shooting was
Okay,
justified.
so visceral reactions have the ability to be set aside when we're talking about normative ethics, and I don't know why you're criticizing me for having a visceral reaction. I don't know why it matters.
Well,
I don't know why you brought it up.
well, well,
Well,
wait,
you can just ignore. Sorry, you can
I'm
just
not
ignore it.
criticizing you for having a visceral reaction, but if visceral reactions are all that we're going to, base our arguments off of, then this is moral relativism.
Yeah, no, that's. Wait, is there an issue with moral relativism?
I I I viscerally disagree with moral relativism. I'm
No,
sorry, I had to do
that's the
that.
performative contradiction.
You know that I was being glib.
No, I
Um,
got you.
no, I don't think that we can come to any rational understanding of what is in fact correct if
Uh,
all we're doing is just going off of moral relativism.
I don't think
I can't
I don't think normative claims are correct.
like
But that brings us back to what
well,
you
no
meant by
no no.
right.
Hey,
'Cause- no,
actually,
that brings us back
here's
to
the
what you meant
biggest
by right.
concession. No, wait, Lucario. Here's the biggest concession I'll make, because this is the same kind of standard that I apply with it when it comes to actually a bunch of things, including my stance with respect to the entitlement that a fetus may or may not have to the woman's rights, but also to the idea of like God. Like, I'm an atheist, but I'm an atheist in the sense that I can't disprove that God exists. I can't prove God doesn't exist. But based on my perspective, like, I'd say that like and by virtue of the introspection and discovery that I've attempted, that anyone really has a good justification for believing that there's a God. But it may be the case that something comes along that disproves that. Like, every single belief I hold is held in a state of, I'm going with the best answer based on the evidence that I have.
And are you
So
saying that there's like possible evidence, like there's possible like entities out there that could
we,
persuade you otherwise? Facts of
I'm
reality that
I'm
could persuade you
I'm
otherwise?
I'm saying I can't I can't even say that it's possible, because I think that would be saying that I have knowledge that I don't have. What I'm saying is that I can't disprove that there is any evidence that would convince me to be pro-life, or
Is it
that convince me that there's a God.
is it logically
I think that's
possible that
logically
like
consistent.
you could come across more facts of reality that would convince you of pro life?
I would say I don't know, and that's the most honest answer I can give.
I can tell I do know, and I'm those facts of reality, and I'm here telling you that you should be pro life.
Okay, well, I don't think you have the evidence to justify that claim,
No,
because all you've
I have
done
the
is
evidence.
say all you've done is appeal to moral relativism, and I'm not convinced that moral relativism is like the only thing that there is.
I mean, I can disprove moral realism and prove the
Your
contradiction of it.
moral relativism would be the non-God claim. Like, you're basically asserting God doesn't exist. Moral relativism
I
is
can
all
prove the
there is.
contradiction of like moral realism if you want.
I'd rather go through I because again I don't have any reason to believe that you're correct based on what you've told me. But again, this isn't the conversation I wanted to have, and I really haven't done a deep dive into like all these moral claims. So I would at least want to maybe read what you're basing that off of, and then maybe hear your argument from there. So
Gotcha.
I just think that I think morality can be more because I would call myself a threshold deontologist. I think that morality can be more independently codified and verified than what the moral relativist might say.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with that. But also, I want to be clear. Like you said that when we're talking about people's rights, like when we're saying like whether the mother has the right to like claim her property, you said that's not a normative claim, right?
Um, I think that
Because you
how do I want
definitely
to
said
phrase
that
this?
earlier. Now you're just thinking about whether you're gonna say it again.
No, no, no. I'd still say I believe that. I'd say that if that property if property by definition belongs to some person but not others, and maybe for the sake of this particular example, if that property only belongs to her, then by definition no one else is entitled to it. And in order to say why she would have to continue a pregnancy where we acknowledge that there is an exchange of resources that she may or may not consent to, which, by the way, if she consents to it, more power to her. Um, but if there's
You
no
said we're
established
talking about why she should have the ability to, though, right? Like it's
well,
like
no,
should is a it's a normative term.
no, 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 no. Okay, by negation, if there is no entitlement that the fetus has to those resources that she owns, then
I
there's
take
no
I take
reason to
I take
there's no reason
entitlement.
to expect her to keep giving those resources if it's happening without her consent.
Yeah, I take. Well, I'm not even gonna go into consent, but I take entitlement and ownership to be normative terms. I think they can reduce down to normativity.
Okay, you can say that, but
Do you
you
want me to
just
prove it?
believe.
Sorry, do you want me to prove it?
Okay,
I
okay,
can I can ask you what you mean by
sure.
entitlement, and that's gonna reduce towards moral claims, right?
As in she has the fetus would have an equal claim to the resources or greater than the claim that the woman has to her own resources.
I just take claims to be moral entitlements.
Yeah. Okay.
And okay, and so
And
earlier, wait, uh, do you agree that morality has to do with normativity?
um depends on what you mean by normative. What do you mean by
Do
normativity?
okay,
Or I guess morality.
caveman. Do you know what
Because I,
normative?
I I have my own subjective desires. I have my own subjective moral system that I choose to live by. But that doesn't mean that I can prescribe that moral framework onto anyone else. Maybe, for lack of a better term, I'd say that ethics would determine whether or not that we would have she should have an expectation, even if she could act freely against those expectations or those
You don't
requirements
take
under
you don't
ethics.
take ethics to be normative?
I would say at some point there is some codified, I guess by virtue of logic, way of acting that is independently verifiable. And I think it would be based on rights. I would say that by negation, she owns her property.
Sorry, and then your
The fetus,
definition of
the
rights
fetus, the
reduces
fetus, the
down to
fetus, the
morality
fetus,
again.
if they don't have a claim to her property, then there is no argument that could be made that would justify that fetus
I,
can keep
I take
using that property
justification
if
to
she
be
no longer
normative.
desires it.
Yeah, sorry, I take justification to be normative as well. Do you have
Okay, then
any do
everything
you
is
have
more.
any other normative terms you want to use?
Okay, you're just basically if everything is normative, then I guess nothing is normative. Like everything is just independent desires. Like
Did I say that everything was normative?
that seems to be the conclusion you're inevitably going to reach if you continue down this debate path.
Inevitably. So okay, well you're making an inductive case. Like you're saying Lucario takes these set
Yes,
of
I
five
agree.
words.
Yeah.
You're taking this set of five words that Lucario is using, and he calls them to be normative. Now presumably
Which
he's
which
going to say that all words Lucario says after these five words are also going to be normative. I think that's unironically an argument that you're making in your head.
I'm not making an argument. What I'm saying is I'm talking about my particular reaction to what you're saying, but I'm not saying that my
And
reaction
your
is
reaction is
therefore a
based off your
no, no, no,
reaction is based
no.
off of
It would
premises. That was
no,
an
no, no.
inductive argument.
It would be a black swan fallacy, for example, if I assumed that I was correct based on my reaction to what you're saying. I'm not making that argument.
Your reaction was based off of reasons. Those reasons can be interpreted as premises, and premises are things that logically follow a conclusion, which is the definition of an argument.
Yes, but
So,
that doesn't
so
mean
you
that
are making an argument in your
that
head.
doesn't.
I'm not
But
wrong
I'm
saying you're
not
making
making
an
a.
argument in your
Wait,
head
no, Lucario,
that
Lucario.
every word I say is going to be normative.
Here's the kicker. I'm not arguing that you're wrong. That's the kicker.
So I take
What
kickers
I'm
to be
saying is
normative words.
no. I Jesus Christ. I hate you so much.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm
No,
sorry.
no, dude. Honestly, that made me fucking laugh. I'm losing it right now. In a good way, and good is a normative term. So
Let's go. Let's go. This guy gets it.
see, I can dish it back out. No, I just say that like I'm not particularly convinced that this is a concrete argument that I should put any stake into. But like that's my subjective opinion. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I'm not convinced by it. But like this is how I approach everything. I argue my points, and I think I have a good reason to argue why my point is correct. But I don't operate under the pretense that I can't be proven to be wrong. I just don't think anybody's actually engaged my argument on its actual merits because they're engaging in all of the different caveats and reductios that you brought up earlier. And I
Yeah.
think you do a better I think you do a better job than most of like actually engaging in this conversation in good faith. I'm not just saying that because I'm talking to you one on one. I'll say that to anybody. I think Lucario engages with this conversation in better faith than most people because I don't think you have any skin in the game. I don't think if we're gonna just talk like real talk here, I think a lot of the fucking pro-lifers. I can't prove it, so I'm not gonna say that I'm absolutely correct. I think a lot of the pro-lifers on TikTok are grifters. I really do. I really think that like it's still worthwhile to talk to them. I'm not going to avoid grifters because I think that I can get my message out there and convince people. I still get people following me every day. It's low numbers, but I think that you are distinct. Even if you have like your own following, even if you maybe host a live and you get you know gifts and you know everything like that, or maybe you get people donating on your Cash App, that's fine. But I think a lot of people on the pro life side, if you try to talk to them, even if you back them into a corner with their arguments, they're gonna find some way to weasel out of it. And
Um,
I think that's what I would define as a grifter. And I think that people on the pro-choice side do this too.
I
But
wouldn't define them as grifters because grifters would be like for the end goal, like popularity or like receivance for it. But I
or
think
that they
most
don't
of
actually
them,
believe what they're saying, or
yeah,
that they don't actually believe what they're saying.
I think most of the pro-lifers that I come across, I think they have like some sort of internal hatred against women, and I think that motivates them for the view. So I mean, I
Oh,
think mine is probably worse. I probably look at them worse than you do, to be honest. But yeah, I
oh
don't know
well,
what to call
shit.
them grifters.
Hey, I love you too much to not like spread that around maliciously because I don't want to like I don't.
I've spread it around all the time.
Well, okay, if you're okay with saying that, I'm not going to say that for you. You get to be the one to say that, but that's my principled subjective normative stance of not, being a rat.
Okay,
Like I don't
I got you.
I no, I don't I don't principally, I don't principally, normatively, I don't see any benefit for myself or for the points that I advocate for by sowing discord with the side that I disagree with. I, in fact, want the best arguments from the pro life side to be directed at me constantly. Because if I can defeat them, or if I can show why they're not actually engaging with any principled debunking of my points, I can make that apparent to the crowd and win people to my side. So I am a firm believer in the idea of steel manning. So I'm not going to go about and say, "Hey guys, by the way, Lucario thinks you're all a fucking bunch of like women hating racists or some shit like that." I don't know. Like I don't gain anything by that. All that happens is that potentially certain people that I don't think should have influence in the community could potentially shore up support if you get lambasted by people on your side. When I would rather be engaging with you and engaging in these, like, good faith debates.
I got you. But
Yeah. So
I mean, we only got through one part of the dialogue process. I didn't get to.
we
I didn't really
I
get.
think we got through both of them to an extent.
I don't think so.
I
So
mean,
can
it's
I ask?
we could
Can I ask like
I
why the
can
ontological
we
properties of existing?
can we respectfully, can we hold this off until another time? I do need to go to bed. I've been training a new rep,
But
and I
wait, I
need to
didn't give
get.
you my 7 premise argument for why you have parental obligations yet.
Maybe that's our next conversation. Is you're the one who's proposing your arguments, because I don't think I've heard you propose
I
shit.
wanted, but I
I
okay,
think
no,
you
true. I wanted to
wait,
jump at it tonight.
Lucario. I'm being a little bit facetious here. I'm saying I need to go to bed here pretty soon,
Oh,
and
okay.
I would love to be as cogent as possible so I can listen to your arguments in the best state. But
All
also,
right.
I have work. I have work tomorrow. Like, you're young, man. You can do it like Jesse did and be like, oh, you're over 30. Well, you shouldn't be here on TikTok, so I'm gonna fucking make up rumors about you.
No, I got you. But before you go, I did want to I want to tell you like I guess one thing if you like want to hear it.
Sure.
Premise one: if a person's resources are involved in the creation of an entity, then that person has a right to exclusive or semi-exclusive control over that entity. Premise two: the mother's resources are involved in the creation of a child. Um,
Wait,
Conclusion number one.
Lucario.
Yeah, sorry, what?
Okay, Lucario, please write it down for me. I'm old. I've got a bad back. I'm basically need a hip replacement tomorrow. Can you at least hold off until we're able to have this conversation with a bit more time for me to like go through these premises one by one?
All right, it was good talking to you.
Yeah. I'm sorry if you felt like I was being a fucking asshole the other day, but like, and I'm sorry if you thought I was calling you out because I was like, wait, Lucario is a friend of mine. I don't think this is the gotcha that you think it is, Mike. That was kind of my mindset there.
No,
But
I
like,
think he was expecting like more of a gotcha, but no, that's just true. It's fine.
I was expecting a lot less of a gotcha. I like I, but again, that was unfair of me.
No, you're good.
No, I think that I don't know what it is with Mike, man, because like I called him a fake libertarian. The only reason I called him a fake libertarian was because I think that he's like is completely fine with the idea of like corporations ruling by fiat, but he disagrees with the idea of the state being like I don't know, like an arbiter of people's rights. Like he's an anarchist. Like I hear this from a lot of ANCAPs. I don't know what you think about that, because I think you also call yourself a libertarian, right?
I'm not ANCAP, and if I can't be ANCAP, then probably won't be libertarian.
Uh, you could be a minarchist like me.
I guess so. If I combine the ethics of libertarianism with like threshold deontology, then yeah, I could support minarchism.
Yeah,
But
that's what I am.
honestly, I've been looking into like market socialism and stuff like that.
Dude, based, like unironically based. Like why shouldn't we democratize the workplace?
Oh yeah, I just realized
I
you
no,
could probably be a
actually
minarchist.
that's the reason I disagreed with Mike, is because he thinks democracy's like cringe. And I'm like, dude, that's fucked up.
Um, I don't know. I think it's cringe in like some respects too. But also, I did also realize that
Oh,
you can probably still be
pure democracy is cringe.
like a market socialist
Constitute
and still
Like a
a
constitutional
minarchist.
republic is fine. I'm okay. I think as an economic system,
Yeah.
capitalism's
And then you can still be
capitalism
like
has
a
problems,
minarchist.
but maybe it's the best worst option. Like, I'm okay with saying that. I think the democratization of the workplace is, a lot better in the long run, and I think we've started to show that. But I don't know that I could make like a principled argument for that.
True. And sometimes like I start to conflate like economics, like man's relation to scarce resources, with like how we should operate in a society. I mean, obviously that would entail the other one, but there's like so much of
That's
a broader spectrum of like.
that's the biggest problem. Like people like Vosh will actually do a good job of separating those two.
Yeah.
because like Vosh advocates for like I guess communism, if not at least market socialism, but he also says like electoral politics are based. But there are some people who will be like electoral politics are cringe, but we should only do like the communism thing. But like they're okay with like authoritarian communism. It's like as long they're basically like anti-capitalist in like the strictest sense. I think that you need to separate the economic from the political system to an extent. I don't think you can do it entirely, but I think that you need to make sure that you're not conflating the two unnecessarily.
That's true. But anyway, I know you gotta go to
So,
bed soon. I should probably head out too.
I mean, what time zone are you in? I'm on the West Coast, so.
It's 3:49.
Oh, so yeah, you should definitely go to bed.
Yeah.
Unless you're a young blood on summer with no responsibilities, which I know you are. So.
Yeah, buddy.
Yeah, I fucking hate you. You fucking Zoomers. You disgust me.
Okay,
My new rep, he's a Zoomer too. All he says is bet all the time, and I'm like, I saw you say okay bet. I'm like, fuck you.
I don't know why I said it too.
No,
It just came out of nowhere.
you should say word. That's what real people say.
Oh, word takes me back. That actually takes me back. You're right. I should do that.
We need to bring back millennial slang. Like it was the best. It was the shizzle. No, we don't need to do that one.
I'm trying to think. Would I prefer millennial or actually, yeah, millennial would probably be good.
I will say
Anyway,
based
I
and
don't want
cap.
to debate
I
about
will
it.
say
I'm gonna get into a debate
I will
about
say
it.
based and cap are pretty good slang. I know I'm delaying here.
I'm gonna
Save your
like
argument.
ask for your
Save your
argument.
arguments about parental obligation or causal obligation, whatever you want. Save that. I'm happy to engage with them. I really would like to have a clear head and like plenty of sleep to be able to engage with them. So,
All right, I'll talk to you later.
all right, man.